Okay. Before we have our quiet time, let's all get on the same page. If you're in the Sparkly book, it's page 278, a new section entitled Guiltlessness and Invulnerability. If you're in the second edition, it's page 236, the beginning of chapter 13, and the subject is the guiltless world. If you're in the first edition, it's page 220, again, the beginning of chapter 13, and the section, the chapter is entitled The Guiltless World. If you're reading from the JCIM, it's page 117, the top of the page, and the section heading is Guiltlessness and Invulnerability. Okay. Let's take a few moments to be quiet together. Good evening. And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. Well, I'm going to start off the night tonight with something for a new yellow Post-it or sticky note to put on your refrigerator. It is this. Thinking is not the normal activity of your mind. Thinking is not the normal activity of your mind. The normal, the divinely normal activity of your mind is attention. It's what I've referred to in the past as the willingness to be present with a thing, to be present with someone else, to simply be present with, without preconceptions. The normal activity of mind is attention. Attention is attentiveness, isn't it? Which means that attention is an expectation. An expectation of having something to pay attention to. An expectation of experiencing something. You could say that attention is an invitation to experience. It is a state of innocence if you don't bring into it preconceptions. If you don't bring into play memory. If you don't bring into play all of your typical knee-jerk mental responses, which means your habits of thinking. Attention is quiet. It is not an assertion of anything. It is a receptivity. a willingness to receive, an expectation of standing in receipt. Because it is not divided up or structured by thoughts or theories or concepts, it stands unresistant against all of creation. It is a capacity to have infinite experience. All of you have the capacity to set aside thoughts. And the most typical practice for doing that is called meditation. As we've said before, thinking is not synonymous with being conscious. When you allow your mind to simply be not in the state of attention, but to be itself the state of attention, holiness of being, holiness of perception is available to you. In the silence of being the state of attention, revelation can occur. The direct experience of God being you, of God's infinite mind being your mind, becomes available to you. Now, mind you, what we're talking about becoming available to you is something that you originally had. It's something that you still have, but you cover over by the busyness of your mind, by the busyness of your thinking, by your habits of assessing situations and coming to conclusions and then basing decisions upon those conclusions. And you busy yourself with this all day long. But thinking is not the normal use of mind. It's one of the reasons I talk so much about listening. Because even if you're with a friend and there is a conversation going on, if you want to hear what the friend is talking about, if you have interest in the subject that is being discussed, you will shut up so that you can hear. You will become still enough to pay attention to what your friend is saying. So you know how to still your mind and be quiet long enough to hear. All of you do. It's a capacity you all already have. It's just that you don't realize its value. Its life-changing significance and importance. Ultimately, all of you are afraid that if you stopped thinking, you would lose your identity. But it's not true. You think that if you stopped thinking, you would become unable to function in the world. And this is not so. Paul is not thinking right now, but he's functioning in the world. Intelligence is being expressed, but more than anything, love is being extended. He is letting love move through him. Love that is finding expression in words that allow transformation to occur in those who are listening. Why? Because what is being shared stands specifically as a useful means for sudden release from your old ways of thinking, so that an aha can happen, an insight can occur that leaves you in a new place that you can never leave. You can never really go back to where you were before the insight happened. You know what? When you let yourself be in the silence, when you value the absence of thinking enough to allow the silence to occur, and you let yourself be in it without goals, you just let yourself deserve the experience of peace and rest in it. Sudden shifts of perception do occur. Insights occur. A new experience of something around you reveals itself to you. And what happens? You say. Your mouth opens, and oh, wow, comes out. You see, you're not incapable of speaking. You're not incapable of communicating that something has happened. But what comes out of your mouth becomes an expression of some sort of awe, A-W-E. Some sort of recognition of the actuality of divinity, of holiness. What comes out of your mouth in biblical terms, can be called praising God. Because it's an exclamation of recognition of something meaningful. Even now, what is coming out of Paul's mouth expresses a recognition of something meaningful that he is having. How much better it would be if, as you went through your days, what came out of your mouth was some form of an expression of awe, some form of praising God. Something which, when heard by others, would inspire them, would put them at ease, would make them feel comfortable where before they were filled with fear. Now I am talking the way I'm talking because it's in the context of A Course in Miracles. But in a different setting, under different circumstances, I may not say anything about God. I may not say anything about brotherhood. I may not say anything about guiltlessness, you see. And neither will you. You will always be appropriate in the setting. And so you will not stand out like a sore thumb, as I've said before. Now, what makes thinking so damned valuable to you that you invest every moment of your waking day employing it? Well, you think it gives you your identity. You think that the thoughts you think define you. You're a doctor. Your language, the thoughts you think, the way you reason gives you medical identity and respect, let's say, within the medical community. If you are a social worker, your language is expressed in a completely different context. And again, we will say wins you happy patients, as well as, let us say, respect among the community of social workers. You're a mother. And everything your mother taught you about motherhood that was of value, and perhaps even what wasn't of value, but you find valuable, you embody. And of course your grandmother is in there somewhere, and your great-grandmother is in there somewhere as well. And all of the means you have to elicit the best from your children comes out in the language you use, and it identifies you as a mother, distinctly different from a telephone operator or a backhoe operator. You see? And so you fill your mind with the thoughts that give you identity. And the clearer you are about who you are, the better off you are. You say, the clearer I am, the more clearly everyone else can see me. The more confused I am, the more confused everyone else will be about me. You see? Well, how did you pick your role? How did you pick what identity you were going to employ so that you would learn the appropriate language? Well, I'm going to rephrase the question. Why did you pick a role? And then pick a language for expressing that role in order to give yourself identity. You did it because you forgot that in the silence of your being, in the state of being pure mind, being pure attention, you are that. And the capacity you have in the silence of your mind allows your mind to be filled with the movement of God that causes you to speak in praise of God. It allows you to speak in praise of the good that is obvious to you. Profound good that is obvious to you. Where, when you were active in your thinking mind, what you saw seemed to be relatively good. Certainly not awesome. Certainly not smacking of holiness. You think because you've forgotten who you are. Now, that phrase you're not unfamiliar with. You have forgotten who you are. And the Holy Spirit helps you remember who you are. And it's almost inevitable that you all imagine, spontaneously imagine, that who you really are will be a new definition, a new role. You'll just know that you're a holy man or a holy woman. You'll know that you are, let's say, the presence of God in the world. Whatever that might mean, but you have the idea that it will be a new definition which will be accompanied with new language of expression that will identify you like the old role did. But I want you to listen carefully here. What you are is not a new set of thoughts. What you are is the absence of thoughts. What you are is the silence of mind that is attention. Undivided attention. Whole attention. Simple, pure attention. Well, that sort of throws you out into the deep blue, doesn't it? Because if you take what I've just said to be the truth, you have no way of anticipating what it's going to mean, do you? You have no way to peg ahead of time what it's going to be, and you have no capacity to assume that any of the skills you've currently been employing will be employable, because after all, they require thinking, don't they? And if you're not going to be thinking, then what is going to be happening, you see? The Course says that teaching what love is beyond the scope of the Course. Well, it's beyond the scope of anything, because love is what you discover yourself being infilled with when you're willing to stop thinking and go into the silence. And say, Father, thy will be done. Father, let me be filled with all that you are being right here where I see me. Father, I wish to yield to the reality of me that has to be going on right here where I thought I have been, alone, isolated, and constantly in danger. I will listen for your voice. I will stop listening for my voice, meaning my thinking, my best practices of reason. I will shut up long enough to hear. Fill me today with all thou art. Now that sounds perhaps a little stilted and formal. I've said it many times in a much more simple way, in a much simpler way. I've said, bring curiosity into play. So that when you look at a thing, or when you look in the mirror at yourself, you say, what is the more that is here than what I'm presently seeing? You see? What I'm seeing does not look like the kingdom of heaven. But Raj continues to tell me that the only thing that is ever in my face is the kingdom of heaven. So there's more here than what I'm seeing. And I would like to see it. And I would like to feel it. I would like to experience it. How do you do that? You shut up your mind as though a communication was occurring so interesting and so full of the unexpected that you don't want to miss it. Because no matter where you are at this moment, and no matter what is within your line of sight, it's the kingdom of heaven. It is ultimate reality. Even though that is not what you're experiencing of it at this moment. Your use of your mind is exactly what blocks you from experiencing reality as it is. And the use you put your mind to is not its normal use. You put it to the use of thinking. And basically you put it to the use of thinking poorly about yourselves, and poorly about your brothers and sisters, and poorly about the world, and on and on and on. Now, we talked last week about the great value there is to you in your having a brother that has eyes that you can look into. And that your function is to look into your brother's eyes and what? Remember God. To have an insight, an aha, a shift of perception. It's your function to look into your brother's eyes and remember God. Well, now, let's think about it for a moment. Things are not really complicated here, although thinking makes it so.